Master, the longer a soul beast cultivates, the stronger its strength becomes, and the effect of the soul ring it produces is also better. Where does this strength manifest exactly? Tang San asked. Master's stiff face showed a hint of his characteristic ugly smile. That's a good question. The difference in the soul rings produced by soul beasts of different levels mainly lies in their attachment to the attributes of the soul master themselves and their ability and skills. For example, if we quantify it, your blue silver grass martial soul will lead you towards the control system route. So, if you get a 10-year soul ring that matches your attribute, your control over blue silver grass will increase by 10 points. But if it's a 100-year soul ring, then your control over blue silver grass will increase by 100 points. And so on. Therefore, in possible situations, all soul masters will try to pursue more powerful martial souls. Tang San asked in confusion, doesn't that mean that people with greater influence can get better soul rings? Those nobles can completely rely on their family's power to hunt stronger soul beasts for themselves. Master's eyes showed admiration. Thinking of that shows you've thought carefully. But in fact, it's not that simple. Or should I say, the requirements for the attachment of soul rings are extremely strict. Firstly, it must be a soul beast killed by the person themselves to obtain that soul beast's soul ring. Soul rings only exist for a very short time. If not attached to oneself within an hour, it will lose its effect. Secondly, soul beasts are extremely proud creatures. No soul beast will allow itself to be captured. If severely wounded by enemies and the attempt is made to capture them, the soul beast will choose to self-detonate and die. This eliminates the situation you mentioned. Even if someone hires others to hunt soul beasts, it's difficult to obtain the soul ring if they weren't the ones who killed it. Of course, this is not absolute. How can human intelligence compare to that of soul beasts? The best way to hunt soul beasts is to form a group and go to where the soul beasts are, with the final blow being delivered by oneself, then you can obtain the soul ring. So, what you said about nobles and some influential people having advantages in hunting soul beasts is indeed true. However, those who easily obtain soul rings don't necessarily become stronger than ordinary soul masters. No one can be sure if the attributes of the encountered soul beasts are the most suitable for them. The level of the soul beast is important, but whether the attribute matches is equally crucial. No matter how good the soul ring is, if it conflicts with your own martial soul, it won't produce a good effect and may even affect yourself negatively. The most important thing is that each soul master has a limited capacity for absorbing soul rings at different stages. For example, you are only a 10-level soul master now. With your current soul power, you can absorb at most the soul ring of a 100-year soul beast. If you attempt to absorb the soul ring of a 1,000-year soul beast, the result will only be one. Your body won't be able to withstand it and will be destroyed by the power of the soul ring. When absorbing soul rings, no external force can help, only oneself. Think about it. Those who need others' help to hunt the soul beasts they need, how could their own strength possibly be resilient? Maybe even absorbing a soul ring that suits them and is within their control range will have a destructive impact. Tang San, remember, this world is fair. If you want to achieve something, you must make corresponding efforts. Opportunism is what mediocre people do. The martial soul theory I've been studying is just to make it easier for soul masters to progress in this effort, to become stronger in situations where strength is equal. Do you understand? Tang San earnestly nodded. He wasn't a person accustomed to taking shortcuts. Advancing towards a goal step by step with his own efforts was the most solid way for him. After buying all these things, Grandmaster didn't rush to leave the city. Instead, he walked towards the city. Master, aren't we supposed to leave the city? Tang San asked. Grandmaster said, we need to prepare for hunting soul beasts, and we can't just walk there. Although 400 li isn't too far, it's always good to save some time. As the sun gradually rose from the east, The number of pedestrians in Nuoding City also increased. Today was one of the few days when Tang San didn't use the purple demon eye to practice the purple demon eye. The preparations Grandmaster mentioned weren't complicated. He bought 2 leather bags specially used for carrying drinking water. Each bag could hold up to 5 liters of clean water. He also bought some dried meat, flatbreads, and fruits, enough to fill 2 large bags. If Tang San could understand these things, Grandmaster also bought something that he couldn't understand, and it was also the most bought item. A full 20 caddies of white radishes. Tang San's current task was to carry them. 20 caddies of weight wasn't much for him. Of course, if he had to walk 400 li with it, that would be a problem. Fortunately, after purchasing these things, Grandmaster immediately hired a carriage in the city, giving the coachman 5 silver soul coins. The currency exchange in the Dolua continent was like this. 1 gold soul coin was equal to 10 silver soul coins, which was equal to 100 copper soul coins. A gold soul coin was already enough for the normal expenses of a family of 3 for several months. It was also equivalent to Tang San's income from working at Nuoding Academy for 3 years. One of the reasons why the profession of Soul Master was considered the noblest on the continent was the income. Even if it was just advancing from Soul Master to Soul Master, one could receive a subsidy of 1 gold soul coin per month. This was enough for the basic living expenses of ordinary people. Of course, it was only for basic living expenses. Luxury was impossible. And as Soul Masters advanced to higher levels, especially after surpassing the Grand Soul Master level and entering the Soul Sage realm, as long as they registered with the Martial Soul Hall, they could obtain direct noble titles conferred by the country, becoming the lowest-ranking noble baron. The higher the strength, the higher the noble title. Naturally, income also increased with the rise in rank. Tang San was still riding in a carriage for the first time, and although it was somewhat bumpy, the novelty of the experience made him quite interested. He occasionally peeked out the window curtains to look outside. Watching the bustling crowd of people and various shops, he couldn't help but feel a longing for the outside world. In this life, he was destined not to live as simply as in the previous one. He wondered what it would be like to enter society in the future. "Little San, this is for you." Grandmaster's faint voice startled Tang San from his thoughts. When he looked at Grandmaster, he noticed that Grandmaster had somehow acquired a belt. It looked very beautiful. The belt was entirely black, with dark stripes on it that were indistinguishable without careful observation. Embedded evenly on the belt were 20 milky white jade stones, each the size of an adult's thumbnail, round in shape. They had a warm luster, clearly rare and precious jade. "Thank you, Master." Tang San didn't hesitate to reach out and accept it. As the saying goes, one shouldn't refuse gifts from elders. He had seen this before in the Tang sect. After accepting disciples, the elders would give them a token of appreciation. Grandmaster giving him this belt likely had the same meaning. Grandmaster said, "This belt has been with me for many years, but also buried for many years. I hope it will shine in your hands in the future." As soon as Tang San held the belt, he felt its uniqueness. It seemed that there were many faint streams of air flowing within the belt, using the belt itself as a conduit and the jade stones as storage. 30 years ago, when I obtained it, I didn't know its name. But from my years of research, it can be considered a top-notch soul tool with the function of storage. You just need to infuse your soul power into it, and each jade stone can provide 1 cubic meter of storage space. Convenient for storing various items. Soul tool was a new term for Tang San. Although he didn't know exactly what it meant yet, Grandmaster's explanation already shocked him. 24 jade stones meant 24 cubic meters of storage space. For him, that meant being able to store 24 different hidden weapons. Tang San's eyes became fiery, his inner desire to improve his hidden weapons technique reaching an unprecedented level. He wished he had enough inner power now to practice the use of various hidden weapons. With this belt, he no longer needed to worry about storing hidden weapons. Without Tang San asking, Grandmaster explained first. Soul Tool, as the name suggests, is a tool used with soul power. There are very few inherited soul tools. Most of them don't have attack capabilities. Soul Masters themselves don't need weapons. Soul tools can all be described as relics. As for how they are produced, it's long been lost. This belt was obtained by me and a few friends during an expedition. It was distributed to me as part of the reward. For me, it doesn't have much use, but you should be able to use it in the future. Give it a name. Looking at the 24 warm jade stones, Tang San almost immediately thought of a famous line from his previous life. 24 bridges, bright moonlit night. Let's call it 24 bridges, bright moonlit night. Grandmaster hesitated for a moment, his stiff face showing no expression, but he nodded and said, "It's a nice name, just a bit lengthy." Tang San sighed inwardly. Perhaps this was also a memory of his previous life. Grandmaster continued, "Using it is very simple. Infuse your soul power into one of the jade stones, and you can feel the existence of its space. If you react quickly enough, the items inside will appear as if out of thin air. But mastering its characteristics requires more practice. This will also be one of your future lessons." Tang San understood the importance of mastering the retrieval of items from the 24 bridges bright moonlit night and hurriedly nodded in agreement. Originally, Tang San was wondering how Grandmaster would carry all these things into the soul-hunting forest once they entered it, but now with the 24 bridges bright moonlit night, these were no longer problems. Along the way, he began to practice under Grandmaster's guidance, controlling the retrieval of items from the 24 bridges bright moonlit night. And the items used for practice were those white radishes. For 100 li, not long but not short either, until noon the next day, they arrived at their destination, the soul-hunting forest. When Tang San got off the carriage, he found that the soul-hunting forest was completely different from what he had imagined. In Tang San's impression, a forest should be full of natural aura, serene and tranquil, with fresh air and sparse human presence. But the soul-hunting forest in front of him, at least outside the forest, felt more like a vast market. Outside the forest, there were large buildings, or rather, shops, constructed, and various shouts were heard incessantly. Simple paths paved by humans crisscrossed among them, and the bustling atmosphere couldn't help but furrow Tang San's brows. There's a need for hands to form groups to hunt power-type soul beasts. 2 more people needed. Hunting agility-type soul beasts. Waiting for 7 people. 10 gold soul coins. Similar shouts resounded continuously, with numerous shops mainly selling weapons, armor, and various food supplies. Grandmaster led Tang San into what could be called a small town market. "Do you know why I bought everything in Nuoding City?" Tang San shook his head. Grandmaster pointed to the prices marked in those shops. "Because once you're here, the prices will double at least. Aren't you curious why there's such a lively scene outside a forest? Actually, it's simple. Where there are soul beasts, there are profits. Especially in forests specifically bred by the country for soul beasts. Soul Masters are a wealthy group, and there are too many people trying to make money off them." "Master, what did those people calling for group formations mean just now?" Master said, "Hunting soul beasts is not so easy. Some naturally powerful soul beasts, even if their cultivation time is not long, still possess strong attacking power. This so-called group hunting of soul beasts requires cooperation among multiple people. Each person hunts the soul beast they need and obtains soul rings. With the help of others, one only needs to make the final attack on the soul beast. This is the most common and safest method of hunting soul beasts on the continent. However, is group hunting really that easy?" At this point, the master looked at the shouting soul masters with a hint of disdain in his eyes. "A truly excellent hunting team must consist of at least 5 parts. a food supply system soul master responsible for supplies, a recovery system soul master responsible for status and soul power recovery, an agility system battle soul master responsible for reconnaissance, a strength system battle soul master responsible for defense, and an attack system battle soul master responsible for eliminating enemies. A team composed of these 5 parts can be considered complete. Moreover, the cooperation between them is not something that can be formed in just 1 or 2 days. It requires years of tacit understanding. More importantly, members of the same team must trust each other. Absolute trust. Otherwise, in times of danger, it is easy to collapse instantly. Tang San asked in surprise, why would they collapse? Because their strength isn't enough? The master shook his head and said calmly, in the future, you may also have the opportunity to join such a team. When choosing a team, you may not even need to consider the strength of other members. But one thing you must remember is that in the team you join, you can present your back to anyone without hesitation. Tang San still didn't quite understand the master's meaning, but the master didn't explain further. He just took him towards the depths of the market. Although the market was noisy and chaotic, when they walked out of the market and saw the vast forest in front of them, Tang San couldn't help but feel a bit shocked. The towering trees indicated their age. Outside the forest, there was a huge iron fence with a large number of spikes exposed on one side, facing the forest. The height of the fence exceeded 10 meters and looked extremely solid. Moreover, outside the fence, a team of 100 soldiers were patrolling there. These soldiers were all dressed in fine iron armor, armed with long spears, with strict military posture. 100 steel warriors stood together, giving people a sense of solemnity. The master whispered, the enclosed soul-hunting forest is not accessible to everyone. Only soul masters who have obtained a warrant issued by the spirit hall can enter the soul-hunting forest to hunt soul beasts. Although there are intruders, those people rarely have a good ending. These soldiers are only for perimeter defense. Inside the soul-hunting forest, there is a special enforcement team from the spirit hall that checks warrants at any time. Those people don't show mercy. Tang San asked, Master, is this soul-hunting forest owned by the spirit hall or the country? The master's face changed slightly, making a quiet gesture to Tang San. Don't ask such questions outside. I'll tell you about the relationship between the spirit hall and the country later. Obtaining a warrant is not difficult. First, you need recognition from the spirit hall to ensure that you have truly reached the peak of a certain stage in strength and need soul rings to advance. Secondly, you need the sponsorship of at least 3 nobles. As he spoke, the master already had a token in his hand. The black token, made of an unknown material, had 3 kinds of patterns pieced together. In the center was a sword pointing downwards. To the left and right of the sword were respectively a hammer and a monster that Tang San had never seen before. Seeing Tang San's curiosity, the master handed him the token. Remember this emblem. This is the unique mark of the spirit hall. In the spirit hall, there are 6 types of marks. The distinction between each type of token is simple, just look at the patterns on them. The lowest level token only has a sword, symbolizing the soul of a former chief executive of the spirit hall. The higher level token has a hammer next to the sword, symbolizing a former powerful elder of the spirit hall. Tang San's ability to draw inferences from one another was still good. Master, the positions of these 2 people in the spirit hall should be very important. But I heard before that beast martial souls are more powerful than tool martial souls. Shouldn't these 2 soul masters both have tool martial souls? The master patted Tang San's head and smiled. Those who say that tool martial souls are stronger than beast martial souls obviously don't understand soul power enough. The strength of any martial soul has 2 key factors. One is the amount of soul power attached when awakened, and the other is the post-awakening cultivation method and process. Perhaps, before reaching level 30, beast martial souls are slightly stronger, because they can be attached to oneself. But after reaching higher levels, there is no difference between the two. Strength depends on individual cultivation. This token of mine is the third-level token of the Spirit Hall. With it, I can basically enter most of the soul-hunting forests in the Heavenly Soul Empire. The standard is that these soul-hunting forests have never had millennial soul beasts appear. Also, unlike the first two types of tokens that must be returned to the Spirit Hall after completing the hunt, I can keep mine for life. The additional pattern on this token is a blue electric tyrant dragon, which is considered a top existence in beast martial souls. Although its owner is not a member of the Spirit Hall, the family it represents is deeply respected by the Spirit Hall. For some reason, when the master mentioned the blue electric tyrant dragon, a hint of indescribable melancholy flashed in his eyes. Tang San asked, "Then the three higher-level tokens behind are each marked with an additional martial soul?" The master nodded. Exactly. These 6 soul marks represent 6 powerful soul masters and 6 powerful families. 3 of them are in our Heavenly Soul Empire, and the other 3 are in the Star Luo Empire. As they spoke, the master led Tang San to the entrance of the soul-hunting forest. The soldier captain in charge of checking the warrants immediately showed a respectful look upon seeing the 3 marks on the token. He quickly ordered the soldiers to clear a path and invited the master to lead Tang San inside, without even questioning why such a young child like Tang San needed to enter the soul-hunting forest. After passing through the iron fence into the forest, all the noise seemed to have disappeared, and the air finally became as fresh as Tang San imagined, giving a feeling of relief. Upon entering the forest, the master didn't rush forward, but instead silently observed his surroundings. Tang San suddenly remembered something. "Master, the 6 individuals you mentioned who are respected by the Spirit Hall and are marked with tokens, what are their titles as Soul Masters? Soul Saints? Battle Doluos? Or Title Doluos?" The master looked deeply at Tang San. They are Title Doluos, and they are the 6 most powerful Title Doluos. The most powerful? Tang San's eyes flashed with excitement. The master sighed lightly. At the same level, with different soul rings and different martial souls, strength is completely different. These 6 Title Doluos are undoubtedly the strongest among the strong. Even if there are other soul masters who have cultivated to over level 90, entering the realm of Title Doluos, they cannot shake their status. For you, these are still too far away. Well, we should prepare to enter the forest now. From now on, don't leave my side for a step. Yes, master. The master's somewhat weary eyes suddenly brightened, and his hands came together in front of his chest, then quickly spread apart downward. "Come out, Luo Sanpao." With a pu sound, a faint purple soul power separated from the master's palms. Tang San only felt a wave of soul power fluctuation emanating from the master, and in front of him, there was now an additional creature. Yes, it was a creature. It looked like a dog, but its size was more like that of a pig. It was over 1.5 meters long, and its waistline was probably about the same. Its entire body was covered in light purple fur, with 2 small drooping ears, a pair of deep blue eyes blinking gently, with a very gentle look. Its chubby body twisted a bit, and its fat buttocks swayed from side to side. Its 4 short and thick legs made it hard to imagine how it moved so slowly. There was a bulge on the top of its head, round and unidentifiable. As soon as it appeared, it ran towards the master and rubbed its big head against the master's leg. 2 halos rose from under the master's feet, wandering around him, both shining yellow, obviously 100-year soul rings. "Xiao San, didn't you want to know what my martial soul is?" "This is my martial soul. You can call it Luo Sanpao, or just call him Sanpao." Luo Sanpao seemed to understand the master's words, looking at Tang San with a somewhat pleasing gaze. "Master, is this your martial soul?" Tang San asked in surprise, But isn't the manifestation of beast martial souls through possession? Why does it? Leaving aside what kind of creature Luo Sanpao was, the master's martial soul obviously exceeded the limitations of beast martial souls. Luo Sanpao seemed a bit dissatisfied, calling out twice towards Tang San. A hint of bitterness appeared on the master's face, because my martial soul is a variant martial soul. Remember when I told you about martial soul variants? Sanpao is one. However, its mutation seems to be in the wrong direction. When it just awakened, my soul power was only at half level. Otherwise, how could it be like this now? Even if I work harder, my soul power will never break through level 30 in this lifetime, and I can only theoretically study martial souls. Ever since Tang San heard the rumors about those masters, he knew the master was a persistent person. His dedication to martial souls was like Tang San's dedication to hidden weapons. That's why Tang San never regretted becoming his disciple. Perhaps this was mutual understanding. Sorry, master, I brought up your sad past. The master shook his head with self-derision. It's nothing. I'm used to it. Come, let me introduce you to Sanpao. The reason it's called that is because its cries sound like lualu, and it can only launch attacks 3 times. So it's called Sanpao. Sanpao, lead the way. Lualu. The chubby Luo Sanpao shook its head and walked forward. Although its body was fat, it moved quite agilely. It sniffed around as it walked. The halos around the master's body flickered, and he led Tang San to follow behind Luo Sanpao, walking towards the depths of the mixed forest. Sanpao's sense of smell is very sensitive, able to detect the traces and strength of soul beasts. Although it has become weaker due to the mutation, its consumption of soul power is also minimal. So I can release it outside for a long time. This is for you. The final blow to kill the soul beast needs to be done by you. The master took out a magnificent short sword from his chest and handed it to Tang San. The scabbard of the sword was entirely clear blue, inset with 7 blue gemstones. There was a milky white jade at the hilt. The sword was 1 foot and 2 inches long, and even though it was still in its scabbard, one could feel a thread of cold air when holding it. After walking for a while, Luo Sanpao suddenly stopped, and its big eyes looked in a certain direction, making 2 lualu sounds. A creature that looked somewhat like a cat appeared in the direction it was looking, crouching on a tree, watching the master and Tang San warily. The master smiled calmly. It's a 10-year colorful cat. Sanpao, don't disturb it. Let's continue forward. The master never forgot to teach Tang San. He continued walking forward, saying, the colorful cat belongs to the feline soul beast family. It has strong attacking power, but as long as you don't initiate an attack, it won't easily attack either. If the soul beast is of the feline family, using it as your first soul ring wouldn't be a bad choice. Don't be fooled by the small size of the colorful cat just now. If it were a colorful cat over 1,000 years old, even if we had 10 times more people, it wouldn't be enough for it to kill. Tang San asked an important question. Master, how do we differentiate the strength of soul beasts? Or rather, their age? The master replied, differentiating the strength of soul beasts is not difficult. Look, that's solitary bamboo ahead. It's also a type of soul beast, belonging to the plant series. It could be useful for you. Solitary bamboo itself is tough. Though its attack power isn't strong, its defense is decent. This is a 10-year solitary bamboo, because its height doesn't exceed 10 meters. Above 10 meters, it can be considered 100 years. So generally, distinguishing soul beasts mainly depends on their size and the color of soul power they use when attacking. Soul power color corresponds to strength. In other words, a 10-year soul beast uses white soul power, a 100-year one uses yellow, and so on. Of course, when facing unknown soul beasts, it's best not to look at their soul power. If it's something you can't handle, then you'll face catastrophic danger. Master, Do we need to hunt down this solitary bamboo? The solitary bamboo didn't seem remarkable, just easily noticeable because of the surrounding tall trees instead of a bamboo forest. Its body swayed gently, with its bamboo branches swaying with the wind. Not for now. If there's no better option, then we'll consider it. Choosing soul rings must be done carefully. Each soul ring is irreplaceable. Soul masters absorb soul rings from 100-year soul beasts when they become soul elders. More accurately, it's soul rings from beasts with less than 423 years of cultivation. I've carefully studied the growth experiences and failures of many soul masters. 423 years should be the limit that the first soul ring can bear. So, I hope your first soul ring leans towards this limit as much as possible. The master's research on martial souls was always so precise. Tang San felt that having such a teacher was definitely a blessing. Even with the same 100-year soul ring, the one derived from a 100-year beast and a 900-year beast, although the color is the same, the additional attribute enhancement is vastly different. Pursuing the limit of soul rings as safely as possible is a mandatory course for every outstanding soul master. Continuing forward, the master was giving Tang San a vivid, practical lesson. With the keen sense of Luo Sanpeo's soul, even hidden soul beasts in the shadows were discovered one by one. Perhaps because most of these beasts were at the 10-year level and didn't have strong attack potential, the master patiently introduced their names, characteristics, and methods of distinguishing their cultivation ages to Tang San. Looking up at the sky, the master said, "It seems like we'll have to stay inside the soul-hunting forest tonight. Let's find a camping spot first." After searching for a while, although there were many suitable soul beasts appearing, the master didn't rush to take action. Instead, he patiently continued searching. The camping spot chosen by the master was a depression surrounded by complex terrain and numerous towering trees. The master took out a large glass bottle from a wristband-shaped soul guide device he wore and handed it to Tang San. "Sprinkle it around. Remember, sprinkle it evenly." "Okay." Tang San took the bottle. Inside was some powdered medicine, a bit pungent. Tang San sniffed and discerned that it was similar to the toxic substances he knew from his previous life, like arsenic. The Tang sect was famous for its hidden weapons and poison. Although he was an outer sect disciple, he had quite a knack for identifying poisons. During the process of searching for soul beasts earlier, he had found many poisonous plants that he could identify in the soul-hunting forest, which he then placed into his 24 moonlit bridges. While the master's knowledge of martial souls was unquestionable, when it came to identifying these soulless, poisonous plants, he couldn't compare to Tang San, who had the experience of 2 lifetimes. Especially since many of these poisonous plants needed to be combined to release their toxicity. After sprinkling the powder, Tang San handed the bottle back to the master. "Do you know why I asked you to sprinkle these around the perimeter?" The master's expression was very serious, as he was now the teacher testing his student. Since Tang San could discern what the powder was, how could he not understand the master's purpose? Without hesitation, he said, "It should have 2 purposes. One is to mask our own scent, and the other is to repel snakes, insects, rats, and ants." The master nodded in satisfaction. "That's correct. It's called snake repellent powder, a must-have for adventurers. Remember, in the forest, especially in forests with soul beasts, try not to use fire if possible. Although most wild beasts and soul beasts fear fire, there are a few particularly powerful soul beasts that actually like firelight. Once you encounter them, unless your cultivation is strong enough, you'll undoubtedly die." As the sky gradually darkened, the forest was far from quiet. The chirping of insects, the singing of birds, and even the roaring of wild beasts echoed continuously. Without making a fire, the surroundings were pitch black. Tang San and the master had a simple dinner, then leaned against a big tree to rest. The master was definitely a competent teacher, or rather, he valued Tang San highly. Even though it was time to rest, the master still went through the soul beasts he had introduced to Tang San during the day from start to finish, deepening his impression. Tang San's memory was quite good, and coupled with his first encounter with soul beasts, the novelty deepened his memory. Even if he occasionally made mistakes in his answers, the master corrected him one by one. Xiao San, do you know why I say that cultivating as a young soul master is the most important? The master's low, hoarse voice carried a hint of melancholy. Tang San shook his head, waiting for the master's explanation.